Have you seen The Rock lately? I mean, really looked at him. A lot of people are talking, right? Saying his face looks kind of tired, that his famous physique, well, it's not quite what it used to be. And yeah, there are some whispers about his health. But honestly, that's not even the real story here. The real story, the one that's been quietly building for years, is something much bigger. It's about the total, almost unbelievable collapse of the public image he worked so hard for so long to create.
I mean, think about it. This guy was the absolute gold standard for strength, for inspiration, and now his name is getting dragged through the mud, linked with words like arrogance, dishonesty, controversy. The very fans who put him on that pedestal are now the ones looking around and asking, wait a minute, where did the real The Rock disappear to? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to dive in and really unpack how one of the most beloved stars on the planet, well, fell so far. Just look at this. The difference is just staggering, isn't it? Yesterday, he was the people's champion, the guy you could always count on for that motivational quote or that big, fun, family-friendly movie. He was literally the safest bet in all of Hollywood. But today? Wow, the whole story is flipped on its head. Now the conversation is all about him being arrogant, tough to work with, and worst of all, someone who's just lost all credibility.
So how in the world did we get to this point? You know, this wasn't some sudden overnight explosion. Not at all. It was more like a slow burn, a series of little things, incidents over the last 10 years or so that just kept chipping away at that perfect, polished image he had. These were the very first cracks in that giant facade.
Okay, so this timeline, it's basically the roadmap of how it all went wrong. You can see the key moments where things started to get shaky. We're talking public fights with co-stars, big questions about his physique, some truly awful PR moments, and even full-blown fan revolt. Every single one of these points was another step down the ladder, and together, they completely changed how the world saw him.
All right, so let's jump in the time machine and go back to 2016. He's on top of the world, right? And then, out of nowhere, he drops this bombshell of a post about his Fast and Furious co-stars. He didn't say the name, but come on, everybody knew he was aiming right at Vin Diesel. Now, he deleted it super fast, like in less than a day, but it was too late. The cat was out of the bag, and for the very first time, we saw a side of The Rock that wasn't all smiles and motivation. We saw a guy who came off as, well, kind of arrogant and ready for a fight.
And then the really weird stuff started happening. These strange little fibs that just didn't make sense. Like, he posts this big ad for In-N-Out Burger, talking all about how it's his very first time eating there. The thing is, the internet has a perfect memory. Fans immediately dug up an almost identical post from the year before. And then, believe it or not, he did it a third time. You might think, okay, it's just a burger, who cares? But it created this pattern of dishonesty. His ads started to feel fake, and that's when people stopped laughing with him and started laughing at him.
And here's where we hit a huge contradiction, right? For his entire career, The Rock's message was simple: discipline, hard work, and do it all naturally. But then he hits his 50s, and he's more jacked than ever. I mean, his physique looked almost impossible, and people started to get suspicious. Joe Rogan was on his podcast basically laughing at the idea that it was natural. Bodybuilding experts were chiming in, saying, no way. Suddenly, the guy whose whole brand was natural hard work was being accused by pretty much everyone of using steroids.
So at this point, his credibility is already on thin ice. And then came the next chapter. 2 huge public campaigns that just backfired in the most spectacular way possible. What started as good intentions quickly turned into absolute PR nightmares.
Okay, so fast forward to 2023. The horrible wildfires hit Maui, just devastating the island. In response, The Rock teams up with Oprah Winfrey to launch this thing called the People's Fund of Maui. And on paper, it sounds great, right? A noble cause to get money directly to the people who'd lost everything.
But instead of getting a round of applause, they got hit with an absolute storm of criticism. It was a total mess. So you have to ask, how does a charity initiative turn into a complete PR disaster?
Well, it was all about the timing and just how it looked. You have to remember, the world was still struggling with the economy after the pandemic. People were having a hard time paying their bills. And then you have these 2 billionaires asking regular folks, many of whom are struggling themselves, to donate their money. People did the math and figured out they could have paid for the whole thing with like a tiny fraction of their own wealth. The public outrage was so huge that The Rock actually had to post a video trying to apologize for it.
Okay, so then he tries to go home, right? Back to the WWE, the place that made him a star. Everyone's expecting this epic hero's welcome. But what he got was another disaster.
He basically just jumped into the biggest storyline of the year, shoving aside this other wrestler, Cody Rhodes, who was this close to finishing this incredible emotional comeback story that fans had been following for years. And the fans, they were livid. They saw it for what it was, a rich, out-of-touch movie star coming back to steal the spotlight from someone who had earned it.
And look, this wasn't just angry comments on the internet. All this bad feeling started spilling over into his actual career, and it started costing people a lot of money. This is where we see that the problems were way, way deeper than just a few bad press moments.
And Black Adam is the perfect example. This movie was his baby, his passion project. He was telling everyone it was going to change the hierarchy of power in the DC universe. He wasn't just acting in it, he was pulling the strings behind the scenes, trying to make this character the new center of everything. And what happened? It was a colossal failure. Critics hated it, audiences didn't show up, and it didn't even come close to making back its insane budget.
So after Black Adam crashed and burned, you'd think he'd play it safe, right? He tried to. He pivoted back to what he knows, a big, family-friendly Christmas movie called Red One. The only problem was the budget. We're talking a reported mind-blowing $250 million.
And the return on that investment? A measly $186 million. I mean, that's not just a miss, that is a catastrophic loss. Over $60 million down the drain before you even count marketing. The guy who used to be a guaranteed hit was now starring in back-to-back bombs.
So by early 2024, the whole industry is whispering, what is going on with The Rock? And then, boom, a bombshell report comes out with anonymous sources from inside his own film sets, and they start spilling the tea on some seriously unprofessional behavior.
So what did the report say? Get this, The Rock was apparently showing up late to set all the time. And we're not talking 15 minutes late. We're talking 7, sometimes 8 hours late. This one habit, just being late, reportedly cost the production of Red One an extra $50 million. Can you imagine? And it just created this awful tense vibe for everyone on the crew who had to sit around and wait for him.
But of all the things in that report, this might be the most bizarre and the most telling. The sources claimed that he refuses to use public bathrooms on set. So instead, he would, and I'm not making this up, urinate into empty water bottles. And then he'd have a production assistant get rid of them for him. I mean, wow. More than anything else, that one little detail just perfectly shows the massive gap between the humble man of the people he pretends to be and the out-of-touch superstar he'd apparently become.
So after all this, where does that leave him? Let's be real. Dwayne Johnson isn't going broke anytime soon. He's still one of the richest actors on the planet. But he's lost something far more valuable in Hollywood, and that's the currency of his reputation. His name is now tied to being fake, and that squeaky clean image, it's gone.
So what's his next play? It's a massive risk. He's doing a super serious, dramatic movie called The Smashing Machine. He's playing a character that is nothing like the big, smiling, invincible heroes we're used to seeing him play. This is a Hail Mary pass, a clear attempt to completely reinvent himself and get some of that artistic respect back.
And that's really the big question we're left with, isn't it? After all these years of missteps, of strange behavior, of a public image that's just been shattered into a million pieces, can one really good movie role fix all of that? Can a single great performance be enough to make us all believe in The Rock again? Or, is it just too little too late?